jihad. You don't like it? Go back to jihad.
You are literally.
I'm literally in your face. That's right.
You're disrespecting my religious
Why are you wearing a mask?
Like,
You
literally.
should be happy what you're doing.
Boundaries.
What does this have to do with religion? You're spewing hate. What does this have to do with religion?
Sense of humanity.
Get the
No.
Out of here. Yeah, who invited you here?
Ooh, Jonathan Yudelman, a postdoctoral research scholar at Arizona State University, was under investigation following a viral clip of him harassing a woman wearing a hijab during a pro-Israel rally on campus. ASU has just announced that Yudelman will no longer be permitted on campus, nor will he be allowed to teach there. So in the video, Yudelman can be seen getting very close to the woman, getting in her face and physically intimidating her. She tries to evade him, tells him that he's disrespecting her boundaries, and she tells him to please get away from her. He is heard calling her derogatory names, and another guy is heard repeatedly telling her to go back to jihad, which makes no sense at all. Ironically, before this incident with the woman, he said that he was at the rally in support of Jewish people who are being intimidated by people who support terrorism.
It was important to come out and make a statement for the community. You see what's going on all across the country. Campuses being taken over by supporters of terrorism, Jewish students being intimidated.
So it's unclear exactly what's going on here. We don't know what led to this particular incident. We don't know who the woman was. We don't know if she was maybe protesting the pro-Israel rally or if she was just passing by while being Muslim. So I should point out that while it sounds like a win that the university decided to fire and ban Yudelman, he had already submitted his resignation to the school prior to all of this happening. So he was already expected to leave the institution by the end of next month. So we're going to talk a little bit more about these types of incidents, but I want to get your initial thoughts here. Cenk, what do you see when you watch this clip?
Pausing here to deliver some honest truth as we do in our news coverage as well. TYT is facing challenges, guys, as the entire industry is. You know who could make the difference? You. If you hit the join button below, it's going to make all the difference and keep us in business. We appreciate you. Thank you. I think that the reaction of the universities and the mainstream media have to be separated out, which I'll get to in a second. But in terms of what happened there in that clip, it's as clear as day. I mean, that not only is it hatred and racism against the Muslim student, it's physical intimidation, but it's almost exactly what mainstream media said was happening to Jewish students, right? He did like word for word what they said was happening, but he did it to someone who was Muslim. Now, the reason why I say there's a huge difference between mainstream media and the universities is the universities in these days, while cable news and mainstream media isn't paying attention, are actually, at least portions of universities are taking good actions. So in this case, they did protect Muslim students against Islamophobia. So as they should. It was a specific case, it wasn't a chant or general pro-Israel or anti-Palestine or anything like that. It was actually a physical accosting of someone on campus. So they took action as they should have, great. And then USC's Academic Senate voted 21-7 to censure the university's president and provost for canceling the graduation speech and for getting the students arrested. More than 800 UCLA faculty and staff called for the chancellor's resignation because on that campus, the pro-Israel extremists attacked the students. By the way, Karen Bass, I don't know where you're at because their faces are on camera. None of them have been arrested. Their victims were arrested the next day, and that's why the faculty and staff are enraged and calling for the chancellor to step down. So I don't want to criticize everyone here for having a disparate treatment because a lot of people at the universities are not doing disparate treatment. They're saying if you're harassing a Jewish student or a Muslim student, that's wrong and we're going to take action. But when it comes to mainstream media and cable news, look, I credit where credit is due. Some of these stories are on CNN.com. Good, thank you, we appreciate it. Did a shout out for some of the fair coverage CNN has done recently in some cases. On the other hand, do you see wall-to-wall coverage of the thing that they said they were so worried about? That some protesters harassing people based on religion? I mean, they've got a perfect case of it. You just saw it with your own eyes. So they're going wall-to-wall coverage on cable news, right? No. I don't think I've seen it mentioned at all, let alone the next story where we're gonna show you a guy who ran over protesters. And again, on the pro-Israel extremist side, and again, almost no coverage.
Yeah, it's almost as if the coverage doesn't benefit what, basically Washington and the power structure already decided that they want to happen. It's not going to be covered. I'm not surprised by the idea of uneven coverage. I just think as an individual, man, to be menacing a young woman like that, just as a man, realistically, that's what you want to go about doing. And then you add the, Islamophobic rhetoric behind it. It's shameful. And, I think it serves as a reminder here that we're not completely out of the woods of our 9/11 moment, right? I'm old enough, we're all old enough to remember the Muslim Islamic panic after 9/11, all of these crazy reactions that people had to Muslims in America and around the globe, quite frankly. And I think, as the quote unquote war on terror sort of wound down, it's been tampered down a bit, but man, I swear it's rearing its ugly head once again after October 7th, and after, the war in Gaza got started.
Yeah, and all of that is relatively predictable. And we are going to talk about the post 9/11 world a little bit later in the show. But, protests are known to get a little dicey. But now we're seeing people running over protesters with their cars. At Columbia University, a man drove his car into a line of pro-Palestine supporters in a crosswalk, hitting them and sending one of them to the hospital. Here's a tweet identifying the man as Reuven Kahan. It says the attacker was Reuven Kahan. He circled on foot multiple times before getting in his car and driving into them on purpose, per witness. If that last name sounds familiar, it's because of Kahanism, a racist, extremist, supremacist ideology. Unclear if this Kahan is related. It was later found to be that he is related to the founder of Kahanism, by the way. A similar incident occurred last year in Minneapolis. And at Portland State University, a man drove towards protesters, got out of his car, pepper sprayed them, and then left. Part of the reason as to why we're seeing more of this type of thing goes back to the George Floyd protests. Back then, people were driving cars through groups of protesters. So some states decided to pass bills granting immunity to drivers who injured protesters. The argument here is that protesters don't have the right to block roadways and disrupt traffic. So if they're on a roadway and they get hit, then, they shouldn't have been there in the first place. Also, proponents of such bills claim that motorists have the right to flee what they perceive to be a dangerous situation. But of course, all of that is very relative. For example, in Oklahoma, House Bill 1674 states, a motorist who unintentionally causes injury or death to an individual shall not be criminally or civilly liable for the injury or death if the motorist is fleeing from a riot, under a reasonable belief that fleeing was necessary to protect the motor vehicle operator from serious injury or death, and exercise due care at the time of the death or injury. Several states either have similar laws on the books or in the works. And Republican Senator Tom Cotton of Arkansas is taking everything a step further, not just protecting people who drive into protesters, but empowering them to do so. He posted this on X. He said, "I encourage people who get stuck behind the pro-Hamas mobs blocking traffic, take matters into your own hands to get them out of the way. It's time to put an end to this nonsense." So a lot of this feels very bad faith to me, but Waz, what do you make of all of this?
I think if people are breaking the law, then the cops should step in and do something and apply that standard equally, no matter who the protesters are or who the lawbreakers are. I know that's radical, but I would like to see equal treatment under the law. I don't know why that's so difficult to grasp, right? Especially when it comes to people who get so enraged, about the protesters. Like, if these people are coming out here committing heinous acts of violence against protesters, whether we like what they're saying or not. By the way, I would be for this if people were being violent to some skinhead neo-Nazis who wanted to do their little protests, whatever. Like, this is America, it's a free country. If that's what people wanted to do, then let them do it. I just wish the cops and the authorities would apply that standard equally.
Yeah, but to be fair to the cops here, he did, at least this Kahani guy got arrested, right? So they did their job in that case, whereas in UCLA, they literally refused to arrest the people doing the violence. And you could ask them why they refused to arrest them. They were there for hours. The LA Times broke it down brilliantly. And so, but again, the giant disparity in how media and politicians deal with it. This guy ran his car into a bunch of peace protesters in favor of Palestine. Now, I want you to imagine what would have happened if a Muslim guy ran his car into a pro-Israel protest or into a bunch of Jewish students. Does anyone think there wouldn't be political hearings, that every politician wouldn't make it the biggest deal in the world out of it, and that everybody in the media wouldn't make the biggest deal in the world? By the way, they'd be right. That is a horrible, horrible thing, and you should emphasize it as like, can you believe that this happened? But it happens to the other side, barely a peep. Did you guys hear about it? Did you see it all over cable news? Oh my God, somebody ran into the protesters. They're murdering and mauling. This 55-year-old woman was badly hurt. Barely a peep. So it's the double standard that's outrageous. And they call the peace protesters and Palestinians and Muslims racist names 24/7, nonstop. Terrorists, supporters of terrorists, Hamas, this, that, the other thing. Nobody gives a damn, right? So I give credit to the universities that have taken some action. I give credit to the cops who arrested this guy. I mean, look at how low my bar is. He runs over people with his car, and I'm like, well, at least the cops arrested him, right? But if you can't see that disparity, you're trying super hard not to see it. And so look, I'm born Muslim, I'm atheist now, but I'm proud of my Muslim background. Do I get the sense that I'm going to be as protected as anyone else in this country? Hell no. It'll be barely noted if I'm run over, and United States senators will celebrate it. Speaking of which, one last thing before I go back to Yasmin, because I want to ask her the same question. Take that same Tom Cotton quote, and let's put the tweet back up. I'm gonna just change one word, okay? And follow along with me, and let's see what would have happened to Tom Cotton if he had said, I encourage people who get stuck behind the pro-Israel mobs blocking traffic, take matters into your own hands to get them out of the way. It's time to put an end to this nonsense. Does anyone think he wouldn't be censured? That it wouldn't be the biggest news story in America? Whereas he tells people to just run over peace protesters because they might care about Palestinian lives. Nothing happened to Tom Cotton, barely noted. Yasmin, what's your take of it as
It's interesting what you said, and I know we're going to talk about this a little bit later in the show, but it's interesting what you said about, just the understanding that if something happened to you, that you're not going to get the full protection of the law as, some other citizens might. And I think it's a really sad reality for a lot of people in this country. And when you said it, I was like, oh no, he's right. Whenever something happened, if I were to say something, I know that there's probably going to be a different type of backlash than if somebody else had said it. And by somebody else, I mean somebody white, maybe somebody male, maybe somebody with more money or more influence, whatever. There is not an even equitable distribution of justice in this country. And I know we like to think that there is. I know that on paper, we do have that in this country, but really, I think the people who are part of marginalized minority populations in this country, we are very aware of the fact that no, things are different for us. And maybe that'll get better over the years, over the decades. But what tends to happen, what I've noticed, is that things just kind of come in waves, right? Things get better for a little bit, and then they kind of devolve into something else for another, depending on the times, right? And it is pretty shocking, the things that Tom Cotton was saying in that tweet. And you're absolutely right. If you just change that one word, everything would have been different. There would have been such a huge outrage for it. And I think, especially on the left, especially if you're pro-Palestine or just anti-genocide, right?
Thanks for watching The Young Turks. Really appreciate it. Another way to show support is through YouTube memberships. You'll get to interact with us more. There's live chat emojis, badges. You've got emojis of me, Anna, John, JR. So those are super fun. But you also get playback of our exclusive member-only shows and specials right after they air. So all of that, all you gotta do is click that join button right underneath the video. Thank you.